There's a specific kind of dread that comes from opening a spreadsheet you promised yourself you'd fill out every single day and realizing you're now 3 days behind, trying to remember whether that Tuesday charge was a coffee or 2 coffees. That was me, day 4 of this thing, sitting on my kitchen floor at 11 at night with my phone in one hand and my bank app open, trying to reconstruct a version of my own life I'd apparently already forgotten. I didn't start this because I was in debt. I didn't start it because something scary happened. I started it because I had this nagging, low-grade suspicion that I didn't actually know myself, not in some deep philosophical way, just practically. I would have told you with total confidence that I was a careful spender, not cheap, not reckless, just careful, reasonable. A person who buys what they need and doesn't think twice about the rest. So I decided to test that story. 30 days, every single dollar. No exceptions, no rounding, no, that one doesn't count because it was a gift. I wrote down everything, and I want to walk you through what actually happened because the number at the end is not really the point. The point is, everything the number forced me to look at. Days 1 through 5 were almost boring. I felt good, smug, honestly. I was logging $5, $10, $15 here and there, and I remember thinking, this is easy. I'm basically already doing this right. This experiment is just going to confirm what I already believed about myself. That feeling, that little glow of self-approval is important to remember, because it does not last. Around day 7 is when the first crack showed up. I was logging a food delivery order, something like $22, and I went to categorize it and realized I'd already logged 3 delivery orders that week. Not 1. 3. And in my head, in the story I told about myself, I was someone who cooks most nights and orders out occasionally as a treat. The data was already disagreeing with me, and it was only week 1. Here's the thing nobody really prepares you for with this kind of tracking. It's not the big purchases that mess with your head. A big purchase, you remember? You made a decision, you can defend it, you know exactly why the money left your account. It's the small ones, the $4 this, the $9 that, the little transactions that don't feel like decisions at all. They feel like nothing. They feel like breathing. And that's exactly why they're dangerous, because a thing that doesn't feel like a decision never gets reconsidered. By the second week, I noticed I was starting to change my behavior slightly, just from the act of writing things down. I'd go to buy something small, and this little voice would go, "You're going to have to write this in the spreadsheet," and I'd pause. Sometimes I still bought it. But the pause itself was new. I want to be honest about that because it means the experiment wasn't neutral. Watching yourself changes you a little, the same way people drive more carefully when they know there's a camera. But even accounting for that, even with the pause, the spending didn't really slow down much. It just became more visible. Somewhere around day 12, I had a moment that actually stopped me. I was categorizing a purchase, some clothing thing I'd bought on a whim, and I went to label it, and I genuinely didn't know what to call it. Was it wants? Was it self-care? Was it impulse? And I sat there for way too long trying to name a $9 purchase because naming it honestly meant admitting something about why I'd bought it. That I wasn't tired or bored or actually excited about the item. I was avoiding something. I don't even remember what. But the purchase wasn't really about the item. It never really is. That's when this whole thing stopped being a budgeting exercise for me and started being something closer to an uncomfortable conversation with myself. Because here's what nobody tells you about tracking every dollar. Money is never just money. It's a receipt of a decision, and every decision came from somewhere. Some of them came from genuine need. Some came from real enjoyment, things I'd choose again without hesitation. But a lot of them, more than I expected, came from a feeling I was trying to make go away for 20 minutes. Stress, boredom, loneliness, a bad meeting, a bad night, a Sunday that felt too quiet. The spending wasn't random. It had a shape. It just took me watching it closely enough to see the shape. Week 3 is where the categories started to embarrass me a little. I want to be specific here, because vague honesty is easy and specific honesty is the kind that actually means something. I had convinced myself before this month that my biggest weakness was probably food delivery. That was the story I was ready to tell you. It's a comfortable story because everyone relates to it, everyone's a little guilty about it. It's almost a joke at this point. But when I actually added it up, food delivery wasn't even close to my biggest category. It was subscriptions. Small, recurring, practically invisible charges for things I had signed up for and then just stopped noticing. Some of them I hadn't used in months. One of them I genuinely could not remember signing up for at all. I had built an entire quiet infrastructure of monthly payments to versions of myself that no longer existed. The person who was definitely going to use that fitness app. the person who needed 4 different streaming services to feel relaxed on a Friday. Those people had moved on. Nobody had told the bank account. This is the part I think matters most, so I want to slow down here. Tracking every dollar doesn't just show you where your money goes. It shows you who you've been pretending to be. I thought I was a careful spender. What 30 days of data actually showed me was a person who was careful about the big, visible, defensible decisions and almost completely unconscious about the small, recurring, invisible ones. And the invisible ones, it turns out, added up to more. By week 4, I stopped being surprised by individual purchases and started being surprised by patterns instead, which is a very different kind of uncomfortable. I noticed I spent more on days I felt behind at work. I noticed weekends had a completely different financial personality than weekdays, almost like 2 different people were managing the same account. I noticed that almost none of my spending happened because I sat down and thought, I would like to buy this. Most of it happened in these small automatic moments, standing in a checkout line, scrolling at midnight, killing 10 minutes between meetings. The decisions weren't really decisions, they were reflexes. And then day 30 arrived, and I did the thing I'd been both anticipating and dreading the entire month. I added it all up. I'm not going to pretend the number itself doesn't matter because it does, but I want you to understand that by the time I saw it, the number wasn't really a surprise anymore. The surprise had already happened, gradually, over 4 weeks, in 100 small moments of recognition. The final total just made it official. And when I saw it, sitting there in black and white, larger than what I would have guessed if you'd asked me on day 1, I felt this strange mix of things at once. Embarrassment, first, immediate and physical, like being caught at something. Then something closer to grief, honestly, for all those small, quiet decisions that had never once felt like they mattered, that had apparently been mattering the entire time. And underneath both of those, something that surprised me the most, relief, because now I actually knew. I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't operating on a comfortable story I'd never bothered to check. I had the real shape of my own behavior, laid out in front of me, and you cannot fix what you refuse to look at. I think the reason this hit me the way it did is that most of us build a financial identity the same way we build any identity, loosely, generously, in our own favor. We remember the time we said no to something and forget the 12 times we said yes without noticing. We remember the intention and forget the pattern. And the gap between the story you tell about your money and the reality of your money is usually a lot bigger than you'd guess, not because you're lying, but because nobody's watching closely enough to catch the difference. For 30 days, I was. If you're thinking about doing something like this yourself, and I genuinely think more people should, I want to tell you what actually matters because it's not the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is just a container. What matters is the willingness to write down the thing you'd rather not write down. The purchase you'd rather round down. The subscription you'd rather forget exists. The pattern you'd rather not name. The value of this entire exercise lives entirely in the moments you're tempted to skip logging something, because those are exactly the moments worth looking at the closest. I'm not going to tell you this was fun. Large parts of it were quietly humbling in a way I wasn't fully prepared for. But I will tell you, it was clarifying, in a way that almost nothing else I've done with money has been. Because now, when I go to spend on something small and automatic, there's this new awareness sitting underneath it. Not guilt, exactly. More like memory. I remember what 30 days of honesty looked like, and it's a lot harder to go back to comfortable guessing once you've seen the real numbers. The version of me from 31 days ago genuinely believed he had a handle on this. He wasn't lying. He just hadn't looked. And I think that's true for a lot of us. It's not that we're bad with money. It's that we've never actually watched ourselves closely enough to know the truth of it, one way or the other. The number broke something in me a little. But I think it needed breaking, because what's left now is something more honest to rebuild from.